Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. How does the Republican Party put itself back together again? Dr. Charles W. Dunn is with us. He's the Dean of the Regent University School of Government. Regent University, the college that was originally called the CBN University, Christian Broadcasting Network, started by Pat Robertson and provided many interns and actually many staffers to the Bush administration. And Dr. Dunn, welcome to the show.
It's good to be with you, talking with you from high up in the Canadian Rockies in Banff, Canada.
Good heavens.
Beautiful place.
What, and regent.edu, I should say, is the website for the university, REGENT. You're suggesting that it is possible for the Republican Party to recover its footing. How?
History is the best predictor of the future. We can look at several incidents in history to demonstrate that. For example, after 20 years of the New Deal, the Fair Deal, two wars, Great Depression, and hyperinflation, the public decided in 1952 to turn to the Republican Party. And so we see a cycle there. There's a cycle between liberalism and conservatism at work. Then we see after that 8 years of the Eisenhower administration, the people turned to John F. Kennedy, the New Deal, and of course Lyndon B. Johnson with the Great Society. And after 1964 and the Goldwater debacle, things were even worse for the Republican Party than they are right now. But what happened? The Democratic Party overextended its hand, the Johnson administration, with the Great Society programs. The Republican Party chose an excellent chairman, Ray Bliss of Ohio, who was a nuts and bolts chairman. Within 2 years, the party had regained its footing in the Congress. After 4 years, in '68, the party won the White House. So we see cycles in American history, and we see that if one party overextends its hand in control of the White House, that will redound to the benefit of the out party. So things are not all that bleak for the Republican Party.
Yeah, well, I agree with you that these things tend to run in cycles. It seems, though, to me that every time what are referred to as the conservative principles, I mean, going all the way back to Burke and using Russell Kirk's, for example, definitions of conservative principles, this kind of fetish around institutions and a belief in individual versus society and those notions that were embraced by Reagan, that were embraced by George W. Bush, that were embraced by Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover, that it has ended in disaster for the Republican Party, and that Dwight Eisenhower, in a letter to his brother David, I'm sure you're familiar with this, it's a pretty famous letter, in September 1954, he wrote, "Should any political party attempt to abolish Social Security, unemployment insurance, and eliminate labor and farm laws and farm programs, you would not hear of that party again in our political history. There's a tiny splinter group, of course, that believes you can do these things. Among them are H.L. Hunt and a few other Texas oil millionaires and an occasional politician or businessman from other areas. Their number is negligible and they are stupid." I would argue that Dwight Eisenhower was more liberal than Bill Clinton.
Oh, surely you could make that case. I think we have to look at something else, and we've talked about cycles. Now we have to talk about centers. The center of the American public. Most Americans are neither far right nor far left. They're in the center. So the magnet of power in America is in the center. Ronald Reagan understood that. He tacked hard right to get the Republican nomination because the center of gravity of power in the Republican Party is to the right of center. But then he tacked to the left to get back and govern from a center-right perspective. Bill Clinton did the same thing from the opposite point of view. He tacked hard left to get the nomination, but he governed center-left. Barack Obama, of course, tacked hard left to get the nomination. Now he's beginning to move back towards the center to govern from a center-left position.
But those centers, I don't disagree with your analysis, but my sense of it is that the centers are not where we think they are. If you look at I would say Eisenhower was probably more reflective of the center consensus throughout his presidency, through the 8 years of his presidency. The top marginal income tax rate was 94% in the United States on people making over $3.2 million a year. Americans broadly embraced that, and so did Eisenhower. Now it's down to, 36%. During Eisenhower's time, corporations were paying between 40 and 45% of the total tax bill in this country. They're certainly using that much of the commons. Now they're paying around 7%. We have seen a dramatic shift in a whole variety of areas, but particularly with regard to economic policy. In the 50s, you could actually retire and live on Social Security. Now you can't, in large part because of the way the CPIs have been fiddled with by 5 or 6 successive administrations. The vast majority of Americans want a national health care system like every other industrialized country has, and yet it's considered, by pundits, not to be a center position to do what the vast majority of Americans want.
The center is fluid. It shifts. The center of the 50s represented a point of view that Eisenhower, of course, reflected in his administration. But that center shifts as one party overextends its hand. It'll shift back. It's like a pendulum of the clock, shifting back and forth. And so we're seeing a shift now into the administration of President Obama that's more reflective of the popular point of view. So the question for the Obama administration, and this is where I commend President Obama strictly from an understanding of American politics, he recognizes that the best defense is a good offense, that if he's going to accomplish anything significant, he's going to have to do it early in his administration. So that, for example, today he held a major press conference with regard to fuel efficiency and the reduction in greenhouse gases. This is an excellent initiative for him, and he's come up with these several times now early here in his administration.
Oh, I understand and agree. I mean, with the political reality here, but back to the Republican Party. We have a party that, when Michael Steele was asked, okay, what's your health care plan, he started talking about tort reform. That's not a health care plan. We have a Republican Party that, there's a very funny website. It's called I'mSorryRush.com, where every single time a Republican speaks out in national media and says anything dismissive of Rush Limbaugh as not being the head of the Republican Party, he trashes them on the air, and within 48 hours they come back and publicly apologize to him. You've got a party that's run by Rush Limbaugh and Dick Cheney. And how can a party like that survive, sir?
Well, again, we look to history. And Michael Steele has made a mistake, not necessarily in attacking Rush Limbaugh, although he should not have done that. His mistake was even speaking publicly about anything. Ray Bliss succeeded as a Republican national chairman after the Goldwater debacle because he rebuilt the party, the grassroots on up. So
quietly from the inside. Yeah, I think most Democrats don't know who's the head of the DNC. And but point made. But do you consider Rush Limbaugh to be the head of the Republican Party, or would you repudiate him?
No, he's not the head of the Republican Party. He happens to be a voice reflective of a certain brand of conservatism, but he's not broadly representative of the whole of conservatism, nor obviously of the whole of the Republican Party.
Do you think that the Republican Party can continue to exist if they follow in lockstep his preachings?
Well, again, there comes a time when the party recognizes that it has to put forth a plan, as under Newt Gingrich in 1994, Contract with America, a positive plan that captured the imagination of the American people. And so for the first time in many years, the Republican Party captured control of the U.S. House of Representatives. And in fact, that was the first time it had.
But that was wordsmithing, sir. I mean, you go back and look at the 10 items in Newt's Contract on America, and 6 of the 10 items were all pointing to one piece of legislation, which was tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires.
Well, I think that's a bit of a gross exaggeration, but the fact is the American people bought in to a Contract with America, and it was a positive initiative. Now, liberals and Democrats may disagree on whether or not it was positive, but that's indeed what happened. If we look at Ronald Reagan, he read the tea leaves of American politics. He understood that there was a lot of dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party in the South, with conservative religious people in the North and in the South. And he...
Yet Carter was ahead of him up until the month and a half before the election when the hostages could not be freed.
Well, again, it demonstrates something about politics, that it takes strange turns.
Yeah.
It took a strange turn then with regard to Jimmy Carter.
That is certainly true. That is certainly true. Charles Dunn, and I'm sorry, sir, we have to leave it at that, but interesting conversation. Regent.edu, of course, the university. Charles W. Dunn, the dean of the Regent University School of Government. Thanks for dropping by and talking with me today.
Yeah, get my book, The Future of Conservatism.
The Future of Conservatism. Thank you very much. I will do so. Thank you.